Petro is a professional sniper. It is on his clear vision and composure that the lives of Russian occupiers often depend. Before the full-scale invasion of the Russian army into the territory of Ukraine, the man worked for 9 years in the field of journalism on one of the regional TV channels.
In fact, there was no significant turning point in my consciousness in accepting reality. Everything happened very smoothly when it comes to understanding that our country was attacked, and this is happening in the 21st century, when we are all used to solving, let's say, in a civilized way, and such an act of brutal aggression takes place. You are driven by indignation that this should not be, and you must do everything to stop it.
In the hands of Petro is a Ukrainian semi-automatic rifle. The fighter says it meets NATO standards, but the Soviet model of the SVD developed in the last century has long been morally obsolete. Zbroyar ZN effectively shows itself at a distance of 500 to 800 meters. Today the Ukrainian army has a certain technical superiority over the enemy, the soldiers assures, but the victory may not be soon.
A full-scale war is a long process. Such a thing as a quick victory, and generally speaking, and sowing the information seed that the victory will be very soon, is very unsafe, because people relax. And here we have not a sprint race, but a marathon to see who is more enduring. Our task is simply to deplete the enemy, but at the same time not to deplete ourselves.
Today Petro's unit is serving in Bakhmut. Through an optical sight, the man can clearly see what the Russian invaders have turned the fortress city into.
The enemy does not neglect the destruction of civilian infrastructure, buildings where civilians lived or still live. Just like that, the city is completely destroyed by the Russians.
Volodymyr is the commander of the sniper unit. He says that the battle for Bakhmut has been going on since last summer, and since December attempts began to surround the settlement. The desires of Russians cost them dearly.
Bakhmut is probably one of the most dangerous areas, so entry for civilians is prohibited there. In addition to devastation, constant shelling and death, you will not see anything else there. As for our extreme tasks, as in most of our troops and defense forces, these are tasks to contain the advance of the enemy in all sectors where he tries to do this. This is directly the urban part of Bakhmut itself, and the surrounding territories and environs of the city.
Before the beginning of war, Alexei worked for 7 years as the artistic director and director of the Lviv Academic Theatre, and today he is the driver of the sniper squad.
February 24th, when it started, I went to the enlistment office, because when it was 2014, there was no such mass awareness, unfortunately, much to our regret. And when on the February 24th, Russia's aggression against Ukraine began, then accordingly it blew me up in a good way. I ran to the 80th unit, because it was nearby in Lviv, and even more so, I once served there. I'm very proud to serve in that unit.
Despite the unceasing hostilities in the basements and shelters of Bakhmut, there are still peaceful people who do not want to evacuate. There are about 1,500 civilians in the city. On April 30, the commander of the Eastern Group of Troops, Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, visited the Bakhmut direction and noted that the Ukrainian military went on a counter-attack in some parts of the fortress city, as a result of which the Russian invaders left some positions. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Anastasia Volkova, UATV News.